Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala ma ba'd. Okay, so now we're in week 17 and we have 3 qasas passages to cover this week total. Okay, so we're keeping it less, the amount of passages in week 17, and that's because there's a major discussion on naqis. Okay, in the 2010 reproduction of the materials, I did the madi in week 17 and I did the mudari in week 18. This time I'm going to change it, and I'm going to try to cover the bulk of the naqis right in week 17, so that we can efficiently practice it in the Wednesday session, so we don't have to stop at the end of the madi and then do the mudari the week after that. That's not really right. So like we did in Ajwaf, so there will be a video that speaks about the madi of the naqis, and there will be another video that speaks about the mudari of the naqis, and those will be placed at the beginning of week, or maybe at the end of week 17. And the qasas passages are just 3. So again, I'm going to keep repeating this until I'm confident that most people are applying it and implementing it, and that is to not access the video until you've spent a considerable amount of time with the book, and you've at least tried to arrive at your highest possible percentage, and you've made note of the noteworthy aspects that I might be asking about. So you can, I don't speak about everything, obviously. I speak about I single out few structures and speak about them thoroughly. So there's always 2, 3, 4 factors that go into my choice why I would choose to speak at length about any given sentence. So try to make note of those aspects and then see whether I do it or not. Okay, so I think that would also be instructive for you. So title heading here, Nuhun nir Rasulu, with a dhamma on the ha and a small little noon, which gets a kasra, which joins to the ra, and Nuhun nir Rasulu. I'll go ahead and type it here, just so I'll go ahead and do it with the marker so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's how you would do it. You put a dhamma here on the ha, and then there will be a small little noon here, and that would join to the ra of ar-rasulu, and ar-rasulu has a dhamma. The structure here is mawsuf and sifa. The translation is Nuh the messenger. Nuh the messenger. Okay, now why did I do that? The reason is because Nuh is munsarif. It's fully declinable. It does get tanween. It's not mudaf, so there's no reason why the tanween would not be there. It would be there. Okay, so now the sound of the tanween would create a gathering of 2 seconds between it and between the first ra in ar-rasul. So Nuhur rasulu, difficult on the tongue. So to fix that problem, what happens is the noon receives the kasra, and it's actually written there. Like if you look in the mushaf in the Quran, you will see small little noons there with kasras, and now you know why it happens. Okay, is that fine? Now, Nuh is a foreign name, so you might be thinking that if it's foreign and it's a name, shouldn't it be change restricted like Ibrahim? The answer is that cause from amongst the 9 causes of change restriction, which is foreign. Remember, it needs to have 2 in order for a word to become change restricted. It has to have 2 of the 9. So that foreign cause is subject to the condition that the word it is found in must not be 3-lettered middle sakin. The minute it's 3-lettered middle sakin, then the cause is rendered useless and ineffective, and it will not contribute towards making the word change restricted. So the outcome is that the word would be munsarif, like Zayd. Okay, why? Because it's easy on the tongue. And there's some theory behind that. I can go off topic a little, or we can just wait until the Hidayatul Nahw book, because this topic does come in the opening pages of the book, and the author really talks about it at length. Actually, he doesn't use too many words, but efficiently he speaks about this. Okay, so to be foreign. So 9 causes of change restriction. You know the majority of them. You know about 7 of them. There's a couple that I've suppressed. In the previous video, I gave you one further, which was the highest plural, Muntahal Jumu'. Like when an ism is on this pattern, like the word masajid, or the word what was the example that came? Yeah, tamathil. Like the word tamathil, then that word becomes change restricted, and it doesn't need a second cause. So it's a little complicated topic. Don't worry about it, because in the Hidayatul Nahw book he devotes 5 pages to it, and you're going to be a master on this topic of change restriction once we're done that. And we're only about a month or 6 weeks away from it. Okay, so Nuhun ir-Rasulu, Nuh the messenger. وَأَرَادَ اللَّهُ أَن يُرْسِلَ نُوحًا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended to send Nuh to his people. Notice Nuhan with the full tanween. كَانَ فِي الْقَوْمِ أَغْنِيَاءُ وَرُؤَسَاءُ. Amongst the people were rich people and leaders. Amongst the tribe were rich were the rich people and the leaders. So, or you could say many rich people and many leaders. So the many is coming from the fact that it's plural, and plural does signify like abundance, and particularly the pattern here is a large pattern. It's not the highest plural one that I spoke about in the previous video, but it is a common pattern for the broken plural. And the alif at the end, that's followed by the hamza, is a sign of femininity. This alif with the hamza, it's any ism that has this alif and this hamza at the end of it would be a feminine ism. Now, does that mean that it's speaking about rich women and women that are leaders? The answer is no, because this is word level femininity we're speaking about. And word level femininity, I think I've referred to it at a couple of occasions already, but again, it's one of those topics that will be discussed at length in the Hidayatul Nahu book. Okay, now it plays a role. Word level femininity plays a role in rendering the word change restricted, and it serves no other function at all whatsoever. So the word Talha and Hamza, for example, are names of men. Okay, so for all practical purposes, the verb prior to Talha would be a masculine verb. You would use conjugation number 1. If you're referring a pronoun to it or bringing an adjective or a predicate, then everything would be masculine, because at the end of the day it's a man, right? Okay, but there is that ta stuck to the end of Talha, and there is that ta stuck to the end of Hamza, and similarly here Aghniya, who has the alif and the hamza, which is just like a ta, in that it's one of the 3 signs of femininity. Round ta, alif mamduda, alif maqsura. And towards the end of week 17, we're going to give you a gender video. Okay, a small little prelude, tie up some loose ends regarding gender, regarding definiteness, and regarding plurality. These are 3 topics that students normally ask questions about early on, as if they're like the most important things to know. They aren't. That's why we haven't spoken about them up until now, right? Okay, so in week 17, I'm going to give you like a mini presentation on those 3 topics. And there's a recording there, and that recording is from 2008. So I'm going to replace it with the video, inshallah, 2012. So you can look forward to that. Okay, so what was I saying? I was saying about word level femininity. It contributes towards making the word change restricted. So Aghniya and Ru'asa are both change restricted on account of the alif. And remember one other thing, since that I brought up the topic, since I've highlighted these words, you're going to get these questions, so I'm forced to address them. Now, the question might be, what's the second cause? Okay, there's no second cause. Would plurality be considered the second cause? Well, the thorough understanding of that's gonna need to wait until the book comes. But I can tell you that amongst the 9 causes, there are 3 which are considered powerful, and in their presence, there's no need for a second cause. Like Tamathil, for example, had nothing other than the fact that it was on the pattern of the highest plural. Aghniya has nothing other than the fact that it has this alif and this hamza, and it's not on the pattern of the highest plural, so we can't count that too. You see, so there's only one, and that's femininity. But it's not normal femininity, it's femininity by way of the alif mamduda. So these are powerful causes, and in their presence there's no need for a second cause. So here's the definition of change restricted, to tie it all up, and then I'll move on. The ghair munsarif is the ism in the language that contains within it either 2 of the 9 causes of change restricted, or one powerful cause which stands in the place of 2. Okay, so notice I opened up the definition to include these. So either 2, like for example, Ibrahim has foreign and name at the same time, and Fatima has femininity and name at the same time, and the word ahmar, which means red, that has being an adjective and being on the pattern of a verb at the same time, right? Okay, but then from amongst the 9, there are a couple, like it's actually 3, but again, I don't know whether I'm messing this up or whether I can just wrap it up and continue. Right, there are some that are powerful. Alif mamduda is powerful. The plurality one is powerful, and whatever more needs to be said about this topic will be mentioned later. Let's continue. كان في القوم أغنياء ورؤساء. Amongst the tribe were many rich people and many leaders. ولكن الله اختار نوحا. You join it together. ولكن الله اختار نوحا لرسالته. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Nuh alayhi salam for his message, or you can say for his messengership. Either of those translations is acceptable. وَلَمْ يَخْتَرْ نُوحَ أَحَدًا مِنْهُمْ. And he did not choose anyone from them. Very instructive example of an ajwaf that's lost its alif. Okay, ikhtara, yakhtar, we should have had an alif after that. It's lost its alif because of gathering of 2 seconds with the ra. وَلَمْ يَخْتَرْ أَحَدًا مِنْهُمْ. And he did not choose anyone from them. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Allahu ya'lamu Allah knows مَن يَحْمِلُ رِسَالَتَهُ, who will carry his message. Allah knows who will carry his message. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ, and Allah knows who will carry his trust. مَن يَحْمِلُ أَمَانَتَهُ. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ رَجُلًا صَالِحًا كَرِيمًا, and Nuh alayhi salam was a pious and noble man. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ رَجُلًا عَاقِلًا حَلِيمًا, and Nuh alayhi salam was an intelligent and forbearing man. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ نَاصِحًا شَفِيقًا, and Nuh alayhi salam was a compassionate advisor. Okay, they're actually participles, so I'm being loose with the translation. I'm doing Mawsuf Sifa. It's not really Mawsuf Sifa. Instead, it's predicate number 1 and predicate number 2. Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam was advising and compassionate. Okay, that would be more accurate. Advising and compassionate. Okay, a compassionate advisor, that's okay as well. It's acceptable. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ صَادِقًا أَمِينًا, and Nuh alayhi salam was truthful and trustworthy. اختار الله نوحا لرسالته, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Nuh alayhi salam for his message. وأوحى إليه, and he sent revelation to him. أن أنذر قومك من قبل أن يأتيهم عذاب أليم. Over here, there's the use of the an. Okay, it's not followed by a mudari verb, as we've seen all this time. The an has always been followed by a mudari verb, but instead we have an amr. An anzir qawmaka. Anzir is a command verb from akrama yukrimu, it means warn. Okay, here's the translation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam for his message, and he sent revelation to him. Warn your people before a painful punishment comes to them. Before a painful punishment comes to them. There's no need to translate them in. Now, what is that an there? It's a special type of an. It's the equivalent of a colon, and it's called an tafsiriya. Tafsir means clarification. It's the equivalent of a colon. That's all you really need to know about it. Remember about it. And it's brought after any verb that has the meaning of speech without the letters qaf, waw, and lam. I'll say that one more time. Any verb that contains the meaning of conveyance, conveying, speaking, delivering, propagating, revealing. Like in this case, it's revealing. So it has the meaning of qawl, but not the letters. So if you're dealing with qaf, waw, lam, then you don't bring an. That's like fi'l, fa'il, maqula, and it's standard, and there's no need for any punctuation. So this an is serving as punctuation. Like in English, you'd bring a colon. And over here in the text, whoever was typing the text put a colon there. And they do that in modern standard Arabic. They put punctuation, but in classical Arabic there's no punctuation, and the comprehension of the Arabic is not dependent on the punctuation. So it's being there, it's not being there really does not affect, as opposed to what it is in English. Because if you remove punctuation from English, then it actually becomes problematic and it becomes confusing. So that's not true in Arabic, because we have particles that oftentimes serve as commas and as colons, and over here the an is serving as a colon. Is that fine? So that's all you really need to know about that. So the sentence would finish there. أوحى إليه فعل فاعل متعلق, sentence would be over, and then the an would be tafsiriya, and then from anzir onwards would be a brand new sentence which would not be nested. It would have no position in i'rab. It's called لا محل له من الإعراب. And this is a topic in balagha, that whenever you're confronted with the sentence, the question would be the top question would be, does this sentence occupy a position within i'rab or does it not? Okay, in other words, is it ultimately becoming predicate? Is it ultimately becoming sifa? Is it ultimately becoming whatever? So in that case, it would be possessing, it would be occupying a slot within i'rab. In other words, nested. Okay, and if it's not nested, then they call that. They actually say that. They say la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. So all this being mu'rab, being mabni, and experiencing a grammatical state, not experiencing a grammatical state, it's true for words. Okay, and for that we have that 7.5 video, which words experience it, which words don't. Okay, and it's also true for sentences. So that's something new for you. That even sentences, you can look at them from that perspective and ask the question that do they occupy a position in i'rab or do they not? This sentence doesn't. Okay, and on this page I don't see any other one that can. If you look at يقول للناس فقام نوح في قومه يقول للناس. So Nuh alayhi salam stood in his people saying to the people. That saying to the people is a full sentence. Saying to the people, إني لكم رسول أمين. That whole sentence is actually in nasab because it's occupying the slot of hal, and Nuh and it together would form the fa'il for qama. So يقول للناس onwards is a sentence that is occupying a place in i'rab. أنذر قومك من قبل is not occupying a place in i'rab. إني لكم رسول أمين is the maqula, so therefore it's in nasab, because every maqula is essentially a maf'ul bihi. Okay, and people have asked that question in the past, that what's the difference between a maqula and a maf'ul bihi? The answer is maf'ul bihis are supposed to be nouns, and they're supposed to be phrases, whereas a maqula could be anything. It could be one word, like he said yes, he said astonishing, Shaitan said, how is your longing for them? They said great. So that word great is the maqula, one word on its own. But actually that's not true, because it is great, so there's a omitted huwa there, and so they're speaking a sentence with one half of it omitted. But it's possible for the maqula to also be a single word. Okay? Right, maf'ul bihis need to be either single words or phrases, they can't be full sentences. And if ever a full sentence needs to be placed in a maf'ul bihi slot, then you'd have to convert it. You'd have to water it down. Okay, remember all of that? So anyways, let's go back and let's retranslate and continue. وَكَانَ نُوحٌ نَاسِحًا شَفِيقًا, and Nuh alayhi salam was a compassionate advisor, and Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam was truthful and trustworthy. Allah chose Nuh for his message or messengership, and He revealed to him. You can say that THAT, but you don't really need to say that. He sent revelation to him. Warn your people before a painful punishment comes to them. So min qabli an ya'tiyahum adhabun alim would be muta'alliq al-anzir, and then we have mudaf mudaf ilayh going on between qabli and an ya'tiya, and an ya'tiyahum adhabun alim is a converted structure. فَقَامَ نُوحٌ فِي قَوْمِهِ, so Nuh alayhi salam stood in his people, stood in his tribe, saying to the people, إِنِّي لَكُمْ رَسُولٌ أَمِينٌ, indeed I am for you a trustworthy messenger. And that concludes this passage, and we'll create another video for the next two passages. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.